So I'd like to say 2 minutes, but I had such a lovely conversation, we ran over that. So if I can get everybody back to their seats. Thank you very much. So I hope everybody's enjoying themselves, networking like champions. Awesome. Thanks, bud. Our next speaker is absolutely phenomenal. He spoke at our first event, and you don't have to pay attention to me. Don't worry. I'm just killing time. Don't worry about it. But he spoke at our first event in February 2020, and he was the life of the party there. We put him last because he has a lot of energy to bring you. If you've been falling asleep, no more. You're not allowed because Robin's on the way. If Robin can come to the stage, I would love to shake your hand one more time.
Thank you, my brother.
Thanks so much.
All right. Can everybody hear me? All right. So I'm an energy god. I love people. I love energy. I love vibes. So normally by this time I would have people stand and raise their hand and breathe and get their vibes in. But I see everybody was going around and you guys were talking to each other and I'm seeing smiley faces and the eyes are like bing, bing. So now I'm nervous. I was like, oh my God, how can I keep these people all entertained? All right, so my name is Shannah Robin and I'm going to attempt to motivate you. I've spoken to a lot of people this morning. It's a very small, tight crowd. I like it. And what I'm going to do or attempt to do is to tell you a little bit of how I think and why I think other people should think that way. Because I believe if we plan our life, then we will survive. A lot of times, people don't plan their life and life plan them. And then they are not happy with the result that they get. You know what I mean? So if you plan your life, then you could decide and dictate what you want to do at when and how and your approach to everything else. And that is very important. If you allow life to plan you, then whatever you get, you got to take, all right? Because you had no input. You were not specific about what you wanted to do. And that's how my brain works. I plan everything, everything. From when I wake up in the morning to brushing my teeth, taking a shower, everything. I plan everything. And so for me, life is black and white. I don't live in a gray moment because I think that's just making excuses to do things. It's either yes or no. It's either hot or cold. The sun don't maybe rise, it rise. And it's set. It don't set perhaps, or maybe, or I don't think so. I don't feel like raising up this morning. That's not how the sun operates. So I'm a sun. I rise no matter when, how, the time of year, season, that's how I am. So that's just a little bit of my mindset. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me because you're like, who's this guy talking to me this morning? So yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and why maybe I'm a little bit qualified to talk to you wonderful people this morning, right? So I was born in the Caribbean. My father has 27 children. My mom have 6. And I grew up in a very small house. And I used to say humble beginning because it's a nice way to say very dirt poor. And my grandmother couldn't read because my mom gave me away. She didn't want me because my father hurt her bad and I look like my dad. So you know the resentment, right? But I love my mom, right? I love my mom that I take care of her until the day she died, right? But I had to fight for that love. So my mindset with my mother pushed me in a direction that I didn't want to go and I had to go even if I didn't want to go. Does that make sense? Okay? So my siblings, I'm the second of 6 children on my mother's side. I'm the first person to graduate from high school. I sent myself to high school. I was kicked out of 3 high schools. I learned to read at 14 years of age. I am a martial artist for the last 30 years. I started at 8 years old. My teacher did not know of my struggles. And when I was kicked out of school the second time, I was accepted by a Seventh-day Adventist secondary school, and the school fee was $150 a month at a time. And I was like, how am I going to pay that? Now, that to you might seem like a very little bit. To me, it's a lot, where I grew up. And the school I was going before, it was only $40, and I wasn't able to pay that. So I used to run away from school to go carry bananas on my head every Thursday so I could raise money so I could pay my school fee, because my dad wasn't going to pay it. My grandmother is broke, and she can't read, she can't write, she's an alcoholic. My mom is nowhere close. So I'm a little black boy left to fend for himself. But my grandmother used to make a statement, and she'd say, I born poor and I will die poor. I came in this world with nothing and I will go with anything. And I used to say, Granny, something inside of me was, that don't make no sense. Because I see how she's living and I'm like, no, you're not supposed to live like that. Like, that's not right. So I told her, you know what? I want to achieve the whole world. And when I die, I don't care who get it. At least I'll enjoy it before I die. And that spark grew into a big fire. And she's like, oh, you stupid little boy, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, time will tell. Unfortunately, she passed away before she could have seen my success. Fast forwarding, I was homeless like 12 times. I used to sleep on people's floor. I was a high school teacher living in a car. And yeah, that was rough, you know, but I was determined. Growing up in the ghetto is not easy. I used to see all the drug dealers on the side of the street right outside my door selling drugs, and I could easily turn to drugs because I grew up in it. I grew up around it. My uncles were in it, right? But I said to myself, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something. I didn't say try. Try means intending to fail. I am not intending to fail. I'm going to do something different with my life. And I'm going to make my country proud. So I said to myself, I'm going to become the best martial artist in the world. And I started training like a beast. I became a beast eventually. And I said I want to have my own business. So when I was in high school, college, I started doing business subject. Then I said I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be everything. So hence the reason today why I wear a few hats. You'll know about it later on. But it was quite an amazing experience because growing up humble, not having to eat while going to school. Sometimes 2 days would go by and you have nothing to eat and you're sitting in the class with the biggest smile on your face and nobody knows you're suffering inside because you have a plan and you don't want no pity party, because when people feel sorry for you, they give you handouts. And I didn't want no handout. I wanted to pay my way through life. I wanted to carry through life. And I had a very strict mentor after a while. Why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because I developed a CEO mindset. You see, everybody become an employee, as my friend here was saying. You go to school, they teach you nothing about money. They teach you nothing about life. They teach you nothing about survival. All they tell you, just learn well, and then hopefully you get a job. So that was my perspective for a while, because a high school diploma was everything back then. And if you had a high school diploma, they told you could get any job you want. Then I get a high school diploma, and then I realized, oh, that's not enough. What do I do then, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And I'm going to be the best entrepreneur that I know. In my mind. In my mind's eye. So I was looking at people and I started reading books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I started reading Napoleon Hill. I started reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. I started reading Who Moved My Cheese. I started reading all those different books. And I started writing it down and I started reading the Bible. I don't know if you guys believe in the Bible. I believe in the Bible. I grew up with the Bible. I might not believe in religion, but I believe in the Bible because the Bible is a motivational book like every other book that you will read. And if you haven't read it, I'll tell you to read it because there's some great story about money, finance, and opportunities in the Bible. It's just a motivational book for me. And I love it because I'm very spiritual. All right? Just so you know. And hence the reason why there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Have anybody read that? Oh, yeah. If you want to have a CEO mindset, tells you 10% of all you earn is yours to keep, blah, 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 blah. You know the whole 9 yards. So I started reading The Richest Man in Babylon. I started reading The Greatest Salesman Who Ever Lived. And I was like, I want to be like these guys. I could have some of the things that these guys have, but it's not going to be easy. So I got to think different. And having a CEO mindset, I had to ask myself certain questions. And timing is everything. Timing. Time can build you, or time can break you. It depends on how you use that time. So if we learn how to use our time wisely on the things that matters most important, then time will build us. Because when time goes, it don't come back. You can't unring a bell. Dang, that's it, it's gone. You can't take back an arrow, a bullet from a gun when it's already fired. So you have to now be careful of the shot that you fire because you want to make sure it's worth it. Well, for me at least, I want to make sure that every shot that I fire is worth it. So I plan everything. See, planning, coming back to planning, right? And positioning yourself. We must have a short-term plan of expansion. And I was speaking to Robert, and I'm intrigued with this gentleman right there because he's saying everything I'm thinking about. And I was like, okay, let's do it tomorrow. You know, because I don't wait, right? I'm like a cheater, and I put my paw into something. I don't stop until I achieve it. It's just who I am. Hence the reason why Matthew and I we kind of click, right? And having a short-term plan to expand is very important. But before we do that, we got to ask ourselves a few questions. And one of the questions as a CEO, when you have a CEO mindset, and I mean, you could have a 5 to 9 job or graveyard shift and still think as a CEO. Hence the reason why you become the supervisor, you become the manager, and then you become a partner in the business because you think like the business is your business. A lot of us in society, we were taught that we just work for the company. So we show up late, we leave late, early, we make excuses, we always sick, and then we wonder why we don't get a raise because we don't have a CEO mindset. Does that make sense? You know, so we got to push more, do more. Forget about, oh, I'm only making $20 an hour, and think about in 6 months' time, how can I get $45 an hour? When I moved here with zero, nothing. I gave up everything back home. And back home, I was doing good for myself. I come from nothing to making 6 figures, to owning a rental property in the city. I'm a little country boy. But why? How did that happen? And I'm telling my story to inspire someone who's looking at this video today and hoping that young people can start taking charge of their life and planning their life in a way that they can achieve great success. Because we can all achieve great success. But we got to think a certain way. We got to be programmed a certain way. We got to move a certain way. We got to talk a certain way. I always say, you got to talk for success. Don't talk like a peasant. I talk like a king. When I walk into a room, I own my space. I'm very humble, but I own my space. I don't believe I'm more than anybody else, and I don't think anybody else is more than me. We are both equal under the sun. We achieve, and we supposed to accept who we are and what we are, and we're supposed to share that love, hence the reason of networking, so that we can build each other up, not pull each other down. And I think this is why this function is, that's why I'm here a second time in a row, and I'm volunteering my time because I want to help build somebody up. Even if it's one person, that makes my day fulfilled, okay? But we got to ask ourselves this question here. What is my functional speed? Think about it for a second. What is my functional speed? How fast can I function in adversity and challenges? How can I move, propel myself forward when everything is pushing back against me? How can I function with all the noise around me, with everything going around, with inflation and everything going up and down and crashing all around? What is my functioning speed? That's a question you need to ask yourself if you have a CEO mindset or want to have a CEO mindset. The second question is, what is my processing speed? And all this noise, how fast can I process the information that's given to me today? How fast do I act on the things that are being said? If it resonates with me, how fast can I process that? 6.5, 7, 4, 3. If you're anywhere below 6.5, then we need work on ourselves. And these were the questions that I had to ask myself when I was coming up. How fast, with being in the ghetto, having no food, being homeless, sleeping on people's floor, how fast can I build a martial arts system that everybody's want to be a part of, and I could teach every kid in society to be a better kid? And how fast can I produce and process that information, my martial arts information? How fast? And I'm using martial arts, but you could use anything else. I'm just using martial art because that's my number one stuff. But I did it for architectural design, construction, massage, and stuff like that. Because these are some of the business that I do. My next question is, how fast can I expand? So now you know how you function. Now you know how you process. How fast can I expand? Some of us try to expand so quickly that we don't have the resources to sustain us. So then we crash. And then we don't have the courage to build ourselves back up. So then we give up. My motto is never give up. I live by it. I sleep by it. Never, ever give up. No matter what is going on in your life, don't give up. Why? You got health, you got wealth, you got breath. You wake up this morning, you're here. Why you want to give up on yourself? Why? And then my fourth question is, what is your timing speed? As a fighter, you got to have timing, distance between your opponent. Think about business. Think about whatever business you guys are doing. What's your timing speed? How fast can you do the things that you're doing? How fast can you process? How fast can you get from point A to point B? How fast can you turn over? You invest you have $10,000 to invest. How fast can that money come and produce more money for you? What is my processing speed, my timing speed? All of that is important. When you determine how fast you can grow, it will tell you how to place yourself, position yourself. I'm speaking as a CEO right now. These are the things that the CEO asks themselves. These are the questions. All the big companies in the world, these are all the questions that they had to ask themselves. So in collecting all the data that I collect over my years of experience, these were the conclusions that I come up with. And you got to ask yourself, what plan do I need to put in place? I could go all day long about this, ladies and gentlemen. So you better stop me, Matthew. Oh, I got 10 minutes. All right. Am I making sense already or no? Yeah? All right, great. So when you're, as a CEO, 10 minutes, I'm going to try to wrap this up in 10 minutes. Who have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Great. The quadrant, right? I have my own quadrant for a CEO mindset. So, but the good thing about it is it's all positive. There's no income versus liability, assets, you know what I mean, right? It's all positive. So as a CEO, you have to have a campaign, okay? What am I doing to motivate my team? We all have a team. Our team might be your husband, it might be your kids, it might be your peers that you work with. We have some kind of a team. What am I doing to motivate them? Your team might be yourself. For many years, my team was me, because nobody could do what I wanted to do. Nobody understand because I was way ahead of my time. My friends told me I would fail because they couldn't understand my vision, because I was planning everything and they didn't understand why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking, because they're like, oh, it's just like you, right? At 15 years old, you go in there and you're gonna fire your financial advisor. You know what I mean? That's amazing. That's the way I was with my teachers. And they're like, Robin, you're crazy. I was like, yeah, I know. They're like, what planet you live from? I said, I don't know yet. Because I always tell myself I'm not an earthling. Because earthlings, to me, was just sheeps. And if you're not a sheep, you're a lion. And if you're a lion, you're going to get what you want. It's called a warrior mindset. A CEO is a warrior. So what are you doing as a CEO to motivate yourself, to get yourself to grow, right? Down below that, you have what is your operating system. Like I was speaking to my buddy here, and he was telling me about his operating system of his business. What are your operating system? A, B, C, D. What do you do? We call it a ritual, all right? So in the morning, we do this, we come together, we pray, we do that. What are your operating system? What are services that you're going to create that's going to help your business to grow? Then that takes you to the next side of the quadrant, which is called your leadership and development. What are you doing to help your team, your business, become better? Like I mentioned, the books that I read, that's my leadership. I learned from the past people who went before me, and I respect them for it. And I give credit to them, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't get to where I am today. Make sense? And then under leadership, you had to have interpersonal skills. If you don't know how to speak, we got to learn how to speak. If we don't know how to dress, we got to learn how to dress. Every one of you here is a salesperson. I was listening to my friend here, right? She's into charity and so on like that. She has to learn to speak. She has to learn to deal with people. She's a people's person. And not everybody's a people's person. Some people are people's thing. You gotta develop that attitude. You gotta grow. You know what I mean? You gotta position yourself and grow. So having that interpersonal relationship with people and understanding people and being passionate about what you're doing makes all the sense in the world. Because then you can resonate with people on their level, not believing that you're too high. Like I always break myself down. So that's why when children come to me, I love children. And I take that phrase from the Bible, no, believe it or not, when Jesus says, suffer the kids unto me, for they're innocent. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to bring kids. He said, I don't like the big people because they're pretentious. So he's like, I don't want to deal with those people. I want to deal with kids because kids are innocent. They're pure. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And hence the reason why I dedicate my whole life to teaching children. And I love children. Everybody's child is my child, period, right? So now I got 5 minutes, guys. All right, my timer is on point, okay? And then relationship. This is why we're here today. As a CEO, having a CEO mindset, we need to have relationships. We need to network with one another. We need to help one another, right? The richest man in Babylon, the greatest salesman who ever lived. These guys would come together. So I have a real estate business. My friend has a car wash. My other friend has a bakery. My other friend, we come together and we're like, what makes your business successful? What can I take from your business that I can add to my business to help me? And that is why with the Jews, their money circulate around them 6 times before it goes out, because they figure out what they do and they support each other. Here, we don't help each other. We just so selfish in our own way, and then we realize why our blessing is being cut short. Because we can achieve way more, but we just don't because we're selfish sometimes. So I am selfless. I will give my time, I'll give my energy, I'll give everything I need to get. All right? And maybe I have 3 minutes left. So networking is important. So you must have the right story as a CEO. You must have the right team. You must have the right data. You must have the right strategy. And you will get great results. Just that simple. Everything I'm saying right now is just that simple. All right? And there are 7 things to round up that as a CEO that I want to leave with you that a CEO should do. 1, a CEO should never resent. We do not resent, we are inspired by others. We do not get jealous of other people's thing, we are inspired. How can I be inspired by you? I'm inspired by every single one of you here this morning because that is how I grow. So you make $100,000. I'm like, oh, this guy make $100,000. No, I was like, wow, you make $100,000? Oh, wow. How can I make $100,000? I'm inspired by your story. I want to learn the process. Okay. Number 2, represent yourself well. Nobody can represent you like you. Learn to tell your story and tell it well. As a CEO, we are your brand. You are your brand. So be yourself, represent yourself. Number 3, be inspired and empowered, have great ideas. Number 4, position yourself. Everything happens in a timing. The little fish that swims with the shark, they're there from when the shark let go of the crumbs, and when they get big enough, they go on their own. Don't jump on your own too quick. We have to learn to walk before we can run. So position yourself. And number 5, give yourself permission to fail. You will fail. You can't help it. But get up, dust yourself off, never give up, keep growing, keep moving, and life will take the rest for you, and you will achieve success. Number 6, have knowledge, personality, get the publicity. Like my friend here, he's like, I want to put this in the newspaper, I want to have testimony. You do something great, figure out how can you let people know about it. It's very important. And last but not least, all right, an expert knows how to appear. Your appearance as a CEO is important. If you're going to talk to a certain kind of people, you got to learn how to dress up and stay up. You have to grow forward. Don't just move forward, you grow forward. So you're moving with roots. And that is my message for you. If you guys want to support me, by the way, I give a lot to charity back in my country. I have a book called The Warrior's Journey. All right, it's a little bit about my story of how I grew. It's a motivational book for teens, but you know what? Most of the people who bought it was between 45 and 65. Amazing. So the money that on Amazon is $35. I sell it here for 25. If you want to give a donation of 40, I'll take it. That money will go to the school who took me in when I was kicked out of school. And I buy fans for the school. I help the library. I help those things. So that's what it is. So I have about 20 copies with me today. If you guys would like to get a copy, and just so you know, that money is going to go to helping a child to not sweat while they learn, like how I did. All right? Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation.
So I'm buying one.
Thank you, sir.
Can you sign it for me?
I will.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Robin, awesome. Thank you, man. I got speechless, so I got nothing to say. Thank you so much. He came to my first event. He came to my second event. He's coming to every
You're a good guy.
I mean, when we first met, we were throwing knives at each other.
That's true. That's true.
100% true. We were both trying to stab each other. It was really great.
No, we are empowering each other.
We were. He was teaching me how to do it.
Yes, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so that's it for our speakers. We have one more networking portion.